How you doing, everybody? Rob Ferretti here today, and I'm not going to talk about that. We're going to leave that slammed 458 thing on the floor next to this McLaren. Today we're going to talk about McLaren, the 12C Spider, and it's sort of like a wolf in sheep's clothing in that it's attractive, it's a good-looking car, it's a great performing car, but it comes with a little bit of a, you have to know what you're doing. These cars, they depreciated like bricks. This car, I think, was like $345,000 window. The other one I bought for Gotham Dream Cars was like a 280 something window, and they lost a ton of value. We sold the 281 with not even a lot of miles on it, say 15,000 miles on it, for like $135,000. So really takes a, when you compare it to some of the other cars in that class, the 458s, the Lamborghinis, nothing really gets its ass kicked as quickly as the McLaren as far as depreciation goes. Now, everybody would be like, well, that means it's a great buy. Let me score it. It's nice and cheap. But it's not really as good of a deal as you may think. And I'll give you a couple of examples of stuff that I've dealt with these cars. Namely, the different systems are intertwined. We had, well, let's break it down. We had the most recent one that I'm thinking of was the steering rack went bad because one of the pumps failed. That got some fluid in the lines, completely wiped out the steering rack, and that also shares the same fluid as the suspension. So at that point in time, we brought it into the dealer saying, hey, the steering's a little notchy. They said the motor's burnt out, you need a new rack. $35,000. That's a giant mind-boggling repair for something that you didn't do. The steering rack went bad. It could go bad on virtually any car. It shouldn't cost $35,000 to fix. That's one of those things that you really can't do anything about. Another thing that this car has, and I was going to do a whole like ranty video about it once, this car takes the lightweight lithium-ion battery, and you don't really need to save that much weight. You're saving, what, 15, 20 pounds? You don't need that in a car. The battery costs $3,000. $3,000 for a battery replacement on a car is ridiculous. If you go out and buy a used McLaren, you're not thinking like, well, maybe I'll need like a Lamborghini, a $200 battery. This thing, $3,000 for a car battery. So what did I do? I brought it to the dealer. It needed a battery. I said, I'm not going to put a battery in this thing. You guys have jumped it a dozen times. And what I ended up doing was saying, like, is there a cheaper option? They said, we can get a BMW battery that is the same thing. It's not a lithium battery. We'll put that battery in, and it'll only be $900. So they had to relearn the computer. The dealership put it in, relearn the computer. I was like, you know what? I'll take the risk. Brought the car back. The electric parking brake would not stop engaging. You could not drive it. It was sort of stuck. It was completely useless. Then I had to go back, return that battery at the dealer, have them put the new factory battery in and reprogram it back to the $3,000 battery. That's a big problem. That is one of the many things that would scare me away from purchasing a car, is the fact that it has parts that are absurdly expensive. We're not going to get into exotic car parts because they're all sort of expensive. But we will talk specifically about this car. And so far you had a steering rack that went bad, you had a battery that had to be replaced, and right there you had $35,000 and $3,000 respectively. You don't think about that when you buy a $130,000 or $140,000, $150,000 used McLaren, even with low miles. Hey, it's not really a bad deal. When the battery died on the other McLaren we used to have, the window, in the last breath of air in the battery, the last breath of juice in the battery, before the battery goes bad, it lowers the windows, because otherwise you can't get in the door. If you try to open the door when the window is still up, it'll shatter the window. So the process when you do that is there's a little spot behind the thing, you put a key in, it pops the door open, but the window is a little lower. So without battery power, you can still pop it, the window goes down, so you get there like, oh, my battery's dead, window's down a little bit, door's open, you go jump the car, you're on your way. And we had the problem where that didn't happen and the window didn't go down, and then we had McLaren there, we did it, shattered the window. Now McLaren replaced the window under warranty. They recharged the battery. That was the battery that ultimately I had to replace for $3,000. But that was another issue that went bad. And that under warranty is great. Not under warranty isn't cheap. And you don't want to have like, I have a dead battery, now I have to replace the window in my car, because that's not a warrantyable item once it's out of warranty. We've had all sorts of little like electric knobs, like the electronics in this car is really what you have to be worried about. And the problem is they've got the proprietary software, so everything has to go to McLaren for their McLaren computer. So when you start thinking about that and having electronic stuff that goes bad, it's really a scary idea as to buying a car like this. I think they're great driving cars. They're super fun under warranty. Out of warranty, you sort of have to be very, very aware. You could get a nice clean car with perfect service records with 4,000 miles on it, 1,000 miles on it, whatever, and these electrical gremlins can pop up on you and you're not going to know it and you're not going to know what to expect. And the only thing you're going to know is, especially electrical stuff, it's going to be expensive because you got to go to a dealer to get it fixed, and there's no way around that. You can't go to an independent guy and try to get it fixed. Ultimately, you'll always end up going back to the dealership. We had the screen in the middle go bad on I don't know if it was this one or the other one, but the screen went bad. It was the other one because it was a 12. And we had the screen go bad, the iPod looking thing that they have in the middle. What'd they do? Oh, we don't produce that one anymore. We'll just charge you the difference to upgrade to the newer screen. I'm like, I don't want the newer screen. I just want a working screen. I don't need the newer one out of the 650. I want a working one that belonged to my car that broke, that I had nothing to do with. So everything that we've really had go wrong with McLaren seems to just be like hiccups in the I don't know, product line, just natural. I mean, this is their first, the 12C is their first really mass production car that they've done as a manufacturer. And I remember back when they had the Mercedes partnership with the SLR, stuff was sort of expensive, but it was still Mercedes at the end of the day. And then you had Mercedes had to get a piece, McLaren had to get a piece. You understand why some of the body panels and the replacement parts were super expensive. This is all McLaren, it's all on them. I don't know if that's what initially caused retail values to dive on the car, but the 12C is a good driving car. It's super, super fun. If somebody has one, it's a great car to take out for a ride. Be very careful if you're buying a car. It could get pretty expensive, even for stuff that you don't do to break it. I mean, it's one thing you smack something on a curb, you're like, it's going to cost me money. But here, this car tends to seem to break itself, and especially in an electronic realm where you have to get it fixed at the dealership, there's no real cheap way to do that. And I'll get into the other cars like the Gallardos, the 430s, and even the 360s, and how you can own those and get them repaired on the cheap. Even a Bentley shares parts with Volkswagen, so you can fix them on the cheap. McLaren, you can't really do so. Keep an eye out there. If you do see these online and you are sort of juggling between a couple of cars, just keep it in mind. I'm not saying don't buy it, because I think they're fantastic cars to drive. Super fun, super fast. It's just that spotty reliability that it's not that it's unreliable. You can take it on a road trip. We've had people bring them on adventure drives. It's just when things go wrong and it's out of warranty, it's out of your pocket, and you should be aware of that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for making it through the whole video. I appreciate it. If you like what you saw, like below, comment below. Those both help my videos go up in rankings, and that helps me out. So thank you for that. If you don't enjoy it, don't say anything. But since YouTube does its own things in the end here, I have 20 seconds in which to do that. And that's going to stop right now.